Hey everybody, welcome to tonight's live stream for Sunday, April 5th already. Holy cow. Month's going quickly under quarantine. I hope everybody's doing good out there. We are Student Loan Justice. We are the oldest, largest, and pretty much only true grassroots group of any significant size actually fighting for student loan justice. So you may be wondering, and by the way, if you're new to our group, welcome. We're glad that you found us. We are the tip of the spear, and I hope that you will tell at least 5 people you know with student loans that we're out here, because we need them. And they need us. I kid you not, folks, we are the only group that I can really point to that is fighting for student loan justice. I don't know why, I don't know how, I just know that it's true. So, welcome. I'm very glad to tell you, hey Kyle, and by the way, if you have any questions or comments as we go along, please throw them out now. I'm very glad to announce that we now have over 205,000 signatures on our petition. Our petition, which you can see above, and if you haven't signed it yet, by all means sign it. Our petition is calling on the president to cancel all federal student loans by executive order in order to stimulate the economy. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But let me first say, first of all, we've been around for 15 years. We've been featured on 60 Minutes and the Los Angeles Times and the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. All these programs, Rolling Stone, Vice News, you name it. For 15 years, we've been very moderately fighting for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. It turns out that the Founding Fathers called for bankruptcy rights in the Constitution ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army. Because the Founding Fathers knew that something like this big government monstrosity, which is the federal student loan system that we now find ourselves crushed by, for the most part, was likely to happen in the absence of bankruptcy protections. Lo and behold, here we are 250 years later. Student loans are the only type of loan in this country to be stripped uniquely of the uniform bankruptcy protections that all other loans, all other borrowers enjoy. And it's a nightmare. It's a catastrophe. You know, I talked to the former head of the student loan program just a couple of weeks ago, and he said that 80% of all borrowers would probably never be able to repay their loans. They're not paying them down, they're in default, they're in deferment, forbearance, or otherwise delinquent. So folks, while we will still continue to fight for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans, I have to be honest and tell you that this lending system has failed. It's toast. It's done. You know, tomorrow, and I think that all that would result in is 20 million people having to file for bankruptcy. That's not a really great thing to be doing to your citizens. I think it's time for a student loan jubilee. It's time to write off all of these loans and start again. It just is, folks. And right now, while the president is going to be looking around for more financial stimulus, canceling student loans, it turns out, is by far and away the most possible stimulus that you could introduce into this economy at the lowest possible cost. I mean, the cost is essentially zero. A lot of people say, how is that? That doesn't sound right. How could that possibly be possible? Well, here's how it's possible. Of the $1.5 trillion in current outstanding federal loans, probably only 4, 5, maybe 600 billion of that is principal. The rest is interest. And for the past 10 years, the federal government has been profiting $50, $60, $70 billion a year on the program. So the president could, by executive order, call on the Department of Education, Secretary of Education, Secretary Donald Trump could call on Betsy DeVos tomorrow and say, cancel all the loans that we hold directly. It's 1.5 of the $1.89 trillion out there. And she could do it. And at the end of the day, the taxpayer would be essentially, basically breaking even. Maybe even a little bit in the black. I don't know. But the point is, the president could do this without one nickel of congressionally appropriated money without having to raise taxes by a dime on anyone and without adding a half a penny to the national debt. You know, you look at all the stimulus stuff that has happened up to this point over the past 3 weeks. $5 trillion. The Federal Reserve has lowered interest rates. Okay, that's done. Interest rates are down to zero now. They've thrown $2+ trillion at the banks on Wall Street. Okay, well, what did that accomplish? I'm not sure. We have liquidity in the markets, but I don't really see that doing much stimulus. We're literally writing checks to all the citizens for $1,200. Okay, that's expensive, right? That costs money. And we're loaning money to small businesses and they don't have to pay it back as long as they keep their employers. That's expensive. That adds to the national debt. All that $5 trillion batches collection of stimulus activities will either add to the national debt or cost the taxpayer $5 trillion. Canceling federal student loans will cost zero. Won't add one penny to the national debt. What it will do is take away, I guess, future revenue from the government. But you know, folks, I'm here to tell you, as I said earlier, 80% of all student loan borrowers will never be able to pay off their loans. Most of those 80% aren't able to pay at all right now. So that $1.5 trillion outstanding, the government was never going to get back even 20 or 30% of that amount. So it makes a lot of sense to just make that debt go away. It was air in the first place. It's air now. You may as well pop that balloon and be done with it because it's causing far more harm than good right now. So that petition above becomes all the more important, folks. You know, we hear Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren talking about, yeah, let's cancel all loans and here's how I'm going to pay for it. Well, you know, right there, when they said, here's how I'm going to pay for it, that should be raising warning bells. Because think about it. Why do you need to pay the Department of Education $1 for every dollar it cancels in student loans? It doesn't make any sense. You don't have to do that. It's nonsense. It's ridiculous. And I know the Republicans say, "Oh, pay as you go. You got to pay for everything. Got to find a way to pay for everything." No, that's bullshit. That's just complete nonsense. As I said, the vast majority of the outstanding federal student debt balance is air. It's interest created out of thin air. So, folks, this petition is the most important thing that we've ever done, and quite frankly, you should be proud to be supporting it. Not because you have student loans, you want your student loans to go away. I get that, obviously. But because this student loan program is a national threat. People, I'm of a certain age where I got screwed and everybody in my age group got screwed. Probably older than you, but anyways. But the kids today are getting absolutely destroyed. Destroyed. You know, in 2004... average student was borrowing about $10,000 or $11,000. Well, the default rate for the class of 2004 is 40%. Today, the average student is borrowing like $41,000, and that's for undergrad, by the way. So what do you think the default rate is for more recent students? Is it 60%, 70%? After this coronavirus crisis, is it going to be 70, 80, 90%? Come on, guys. This lending system is done, and the sooner you get that, as soon as that gets through to you, and as soon as you acknowledge that, the easier everything becomes. This lending system has got to go. You know, there's a great writer, a couple of weeks ago, saying that a debt jubilee is maybe in fact, he said not maybe, the debt jubilee is the only thing that is going to save us from a depression. Now, I don't know if that's true. Nobody really knows what the future holds with this corona crisis. I think it'll be over a little bit sooner than people think, and I think the economy will rebound a little bit better. But hey, I don't know. I'm an optimist, so that's just me. But the point is, folks, that this is exactly the right time to be done with this federal lending program. It has been a disaster, a catastrophe. It is harming the vast majority of citizens rather than helping them. And in the words of Grover Norquist, a very conservative guy, this big government monstrosity has gotten to the point where we need to take it to the bathroom and drown it in the tub. So don't feel bad about fighting not only for yourself, but truly for the tens or hundreds of millions of people to follow in our footsteps. This is a big government monstrosity that the founding fathers saw coming from 250 years in the past. Now, returning bankruptcy protections would be great. That's what we've been fighting for 15 years. But I'm telling you, folks, this lending system is done. Most people have already stopped paying their loans as a result of this current crisis. And in 6 months, I don't think anybody's going to start paying again. I think very, very few people will start paying again. So this lending system, fortunately or unfortunately, I would say fortunately, is dissolving into a state of legitimacy as we speak, and that is just a fact. So it would behoove President Trump to heed our call and cancel all federal loans. And as a second point, I would say absolutely return bankruptcy protections for all the student loans that remain. So that's private loans, and that's the older style FFELP loans that are this weird hybrid where private banks make the loan, make the profit, but the government actually guarantees the loans. So folks, this petition becomes just so important, I cannot tell you. It is absolutely the right thing to do. You know, if Washington, D.C. is going to throw $5 trillion, most of it to Wall Street, they can write off these student loans at no cost and greatly stimulate the economy. It's the right thing to do. And remember this, back in 1965 when this lending system was rolled out, the president back then, LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, he declared that the loans would be free of interest. Well, today, about $100 billion a year is clicking off in interest. And that money is being sucked out of us, sent back not only to Washington, D.C., but to this swamp, bog, creature's nest, whatever, of these horrible companies that all they want to do is treat us like ATM machines and get every free dollar that they possibly can out of us. Get every unearned penny that they can possibly vacuum out of our lives. So I'm talking about Navient and Sallie Mae and Fed Loan Servicing and FIA and Great Lakes and all the collection companies that hover in and around them. This is the swamp stealing from us. I don't know if you call it class warfare, but I think that's pretty close to what's going on here. You know, people talk about wealth inequality. Well, what's the best way to cure wealth inequality, income inequality? This right here, getting rid of this nonsensical debt, is precisely where one should begin. And if you're a Democrat, you should be on our side. If you're a conservative, you should really be on our side, because this is, as I said, a big government monstrosity. And quite frankly, after seeing the way the government has behaved over the past 20 years on this, ruthlessly, viciously, all the lives they have wrecked, all the families they have torn apart, it's time to say goodbye to all federal student loans. This thing has worn out its welcome. And any conservative worth anything will not wag their finger at you and say, be responsible, pay your loans. They will point the finger where it needs to point, and that is right up to the federal government and their massive abuse of this unconstitutional power that they gave themselves. So this is historic stuff, folks. We are making history here. Make no mistake about that. I will keep it short here. I hear there's an important story going on 60 Minutes tonight. I don't know what that's all about, but I'm going to check that out. But I just want to, again, say, folks, John Adams himself said, there are two ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword. The other is by debt. So we are the people, and we have got to stick up for ourselves. And as I said, this group right here, where we are right now, is ground zero for that. I don't know of any other groups who are truthfully and ethically and with pure motives fighting this fight. This group is it. So please tell a friend. Please help with this petition. Boost it, tweet it, retweet it. Call a reporter or a news organization. Let them know about it. Do everything you can to support this petition. And there's a laundry list of other stuff I would say, but just let's keep it simple for tonight, shall we? Boost the crap out of this petition. Godspeed and God bless everybody. Have a good night.